All right, now let's get back to one of our top stories here on RT, that of the ongoing riots and protests on Tahrir Square in Cairo, the capital of Egypt. We know the latest numbers are at least 33 people have died as riot police used tear gas and rubber bullets, and reports of some live ammunition on the protesters there. We're also hearing that the former IAEA chief, Mohammed al-Baradei, could be set to become prime minister and said he will help to form a new government. Let's cross live now to Dr. Ayman Salama, professor of international law at Cairo University, for more details on this, as we see further live pictures there. Thank you for coming on the programme today. Do you think the move to appoint Mohammed al-Baradei as prime minister, a figure who's favoured by the public, is simply an attempt to appease the protesters?
Actually, this would be a bit from the Higher Military Council to appease and calm down the protesters there in Egypt, in Tahrir Square and throughout the Egyptian governors. However, I would like also in this regard to mention that by virtue of Mohammed Baradei momentum and the catalyst, the Egyptian fought for toppling and unseated Mohammed Hosni Mubarak and his corrupted regime, and that's why I can tell you that among the majority of the Egyptians there would be a similar, or for some extent a consensus that Mohammed Baradei would be the appropriate man in this a very crucial moment of Egyptian contemporary history.
If indeed Mohammed al-Baradei, if he did man the helm, though, for the new Egyptian government, what would that actually mean for the future of Egypt? We saw the uprising 9 months ago where Mubarak was deposed. Now we've got a new set of 4 days of extreme riots and perhaps a second revolution going on. If al-Baradei mans the helm, what does that mean for the future?
However, this won't be the last future or the long-run team. Baradei, upon the appeal of the protesters, either Baradei or someone else, whoever would be who would assume control, this would be a government of salvation government. However, I'm sure that anyone would replace the current interim cabinet topped by Dr. Sam Sharaf would actually seek the commitments from the government, from the Field Marshal and his Tantau and his generals, to authorize them and to mandate them with full comprehensive authorities. Otherwise, this would be similar to what was called or alleged the puppet government in the hands of the generals of the Higher Military Council. So the person is not the issue. The issue is how would the generals topped by Tantawi, Field Marshal Tantawi, is going to actually reflect another shift in
so as you say, if indeed the former IAEA chief, Mohammed al-Baradei, does man the helm as Prime Minister of Egypt, you're saying he would create a salvation government, a full restructuring and reforms implemented of the government. But if I may go to the more current issues here, there are reports of excessive use of force by the police, live ammunition being fired, videos of police we can see beating protesters with batons. When is the international community going to condemn these acts, as it's been so swift to do, for example, in Syria and Libya?
I would like to confirm that yesterday the EU and today the African Union, its body of security and peace in Addis Ababa, appealed and urged the Egyptian military to restrain and to stop the excessive use of force against the protesters. However, I do not think that the situation here with Syria could be to a larger extent, could be comparable. Over there, the tanks, the artillery, probably in Syria, the thing is more excessive than the situation here in Cairo. However, this does not mean that the blood and the killing of the protesters in Egypt is acceptable, is tolerable. This is a grave violation of human rights, and this is triggering the losing of the army's reputation in the eyes and minds, perceptions of the majority of the Egyptian people.
If I may just jump in just for a moment here, and forgive me, we are running rather low on time here on RT. It has been 9 months since President Mubarak was toppled. There's been a major spike in crime and violence. Who is to blame here? Is it the people misbehaving or the security forces driving these statistics?
To be honest and neutral in this regard, there were mistakes from the army, mistakes also from the side of the cabinet, and I think that there were also some other counterpart mistakes from the revolutionists in the Tahrir Square, bearing in mind that the military council pledged and vowed to hold the forthcoming parliamentary election on its scheduled agenda, on the 28th of this November. But the thing that could be actually mentioned also in this regard, the army should have negotiated peacefully with the demonstrators in the Tahrir Square, should have used some good offices, even through media, to convince the protesters to go out of Tahrir Square and to calm down the situation, to secure holding, establishing the first democratic, neutral, independent parliamentary elections in the era of Egypt, not only in the post-revolution of 25th January, but also in the last 60 years of the Egyptian history.
Dr. Ayman Salama, Professor of International Law at Cairo University. I'm afraid that's all we have time for today. Many thanks indeed.